Hello friends, welcome back to Jutsu Point. Today we are going to build a new React project. This time we are going to build a to-do app. So let me show you quickly how this app works. You can create new to-dos. Let's say one for now. You can hit enter or click this button to create the to-do, and the to-do gets added. The task gets added, and you can check it when you complete it or uncheck it, right? You can edit it as well, and you can save that, or you can cancel the edit and delete the to-do as well, right? You see some stats at the top about total number of tasks, the number completed, and the ones that are pending. We have a button to reset all the to-dos, and also we are using local storage to store all these to-dos. So when you refresh the browser, the app state doesn't reset because all our data is stored in the local storage. Building a to-do app is crucial to learn the basic concepts of software development called CRUD or CRUD, which stands for create, read, update, and delete. Right? So on our channel, we have a lot of advanced tutorials like making games with React. So this time, this is for beginner skills. We will build this project with React and Tailwind CSS, and we will add some cool animations as well. So for example, when you load this, you'll see some animations, right? Let's reset all, right? So there are no to-dos, and when you create something, there are some slight animations everywhere, okay? So let's begin by creating a new React project and starting a server. I've created a new React project with White and installed Tailwind and an icon library. When you need to do that, you can go to the White website and you can create a new project using this command. And for a React project, you need to pass a template of React. Okay, so this is how you create a White project. After that, to install Tailwind, you go to the Tailwind website and you run these two commands. Okay, first one installs Tailwind CSS, and the second one creates a config file, which is called the Tailwind config file, and it would look something like this. Okay, after you have installed Tailwind, now you need to install an icon library, which is called Lucid. Okay, lucide-react. So this is the website, and on this website you need to run this command. Whichever package manager you are using, you can select that and run this command to install this icon library with this. Okay, so with this installation, you will be ready to follow this project. After that, just start your dev server like I have done. And now let's jump into a code editor. Okay, if you have any confusion, then you'll also find all these steps on the website as well. Okay, the link to the website page is in the description. Now, I have modified my Tailwind config a bit to add basically some animations. In this video, I won't be covering this because in this tutorial, I will basically teach you about the important concepts of CRUD, which means create, read, update, and delete. And I'll talk about that a bit more later. But for now, you can just type it out by pausing this video, or you can go on the website link and find this and copy this if you are following along, or you can just watch if you're just watching instead of coding along. Okay. So this is our Tailwind config file. Basically just added some animations here. And then I added the base in the index.css file. I just imported the base Tailwind libraries, okay, styles. Right. After this, I cleared all the default styles that were generated with the project. And now here we are importing this to-do app component. Now this is the component that we will be coding in this tutorial. So let's create a to-do.js file. First of all, we'll call it to-do.jsx, save it. Now inside here, we need to define a to-do app component. So let's begin by defining this component using arrow function syntax like this. And inside of this braces, we'll add a return statement. Okay. Now here, let's for now just say to-do app. Okay. And now we need to export default this component from this file so that it can be imported in the app.jsx like this. Okay, so let's save this and check it out in the browser. Right, so this is our title and this is how our app looks now. And very shortly it would look like the way you saw in the preview. So now let's start coding. So the things we'll do in this are create to-do feature. After that, edit the to-do that we have created. Okay. And then delete. Right. Also read the to-dos. Right. So let me rearrange these things in a order. So first we create, then we read what we have created. After that, let's change the update, edit to update, and then finally delete. So these are the 4 basic operations which are called CRUD operations in programming. Okay. And I'll just give you what this means. These, as the name suggests, these are acronyms of create, read, update, delete. So programming basically involves creating some data, reading it, updating it at a later stage, or deleting it if the user wants. Okay, so this is called CRUD features, and most websites have this. So you need to learn this, how to do this in React if you are becoming a React developer. So let's start doing this in this project. Okay, now for this project we are going to use local storage to save our data, so that when you add your to-dos and you refresh the window or you close and come back, then at a later point these to-dos will persist from your local storage and load it again. Okay, so the way you store data in local storage is by using a key. So there are many websites that store the data in local storage. So to differentiate which data belongs to which website, each website defines a key, and each website is only able to read that key from that local storage. Okay, so for our to-do app, we are going to define a local storage key called local storage, right, key, and it could be anything. Okay, so I'm just saying to-do app key. Okay, for simplicity you can name it anything. So this is our to-do local storage key. Under this key we will be storing all our data for this to-do app. Okay, now let's start by creating some state variables for this app. First of all, we create a to-dos state which will basically hold all the to-dos that we create in an array. Okay, and we define state variables in functional components using the use state hook, sorry, and this is how you import the use state hook. After use state has been defined, we need to assign some initial state. Okay, so now in this case we need to read the initial to-dos from the local storage if they already exist. Okay, so to do that we create a callback function inside here. Now local storage, writing to local storage and reading from it is a side effect. Side effect means any operation that is non-determinative or asynchronous. Okay, so we need to handle it with try catch blocks because there might be exceptions sometimes. Okay, so we create a try block and a catch block for it. In the catch block we catch the error, and basically let's just log the error as an error in our console. Okay, we'll say error loading to-dos. Okay, now back in the try block, here first of all we'll define a variable called store to-dos, right, like this. Now we'll access the local storage by calling the local storage utility from the browser and calling the get item function on it. So to get something from local storage we call local storage dot get item. Now this function first of all will take our local storage key, right? So when we pass local storage key, it gives us all the data under that key. Okay, so we get all our to-dos since that's what we will be storing, right? So we get all our to-dos and basically we just return our stored to-dos. That is if they exist, right? If they don't exist, then what do? we return an empty array. Otherwise, it will be returned as undefined, right? We want our initial state to be an empty array, not undefined, if nothing is stored in local storage already, right? Now, stored to-dos, if they exist, then they should be set as is, but in local storage, all data is stored as string, right? But we need to parse it into JSON first, okay? So we call JSON.parse, right? And pass our stored to-dos in this, right? So this will parse the stored string for to-dos and give us a valid JavaScript array, okay? Right? So this is all we need to do to get our initial to-dos from the local storage, that is if they exist, right? And if there is an error, in that case we'll also return something which is an empty array for the initial state, right? So that our application is still usable even if there is some error with local storage, right? So that was a pretty exciting start. Now let's go quickly ahead to define some more state variables. We'll define a new to do, which is the variable which will hold our input from the user when the user is trying to create a new to do, and initially it will just be an empty string, right? After new to do, we'll create editing ID. So when a user has created a number of to-dos and at a later stage the user wants to edit a particular to-do item, right? So we should allow that, and in order to do that we need to track the ID of the currently editing to-do, right? So for that we use this state variable, and initially it's null, right? When user is not editing anything, it's null. After that, the edit text, right? The new text that the user is entering. So set edit text, and initially it's string, empty string, okay? So let's save this. So these are some of the variables. Now, in addition to state variables for to-dos, we also want to show some statistics like to-do completed, number of to-dos completed, total number of to-dos, and the pending ones, okay? So here we will calculate some statistics, right? So let's say the first one is called total to-dos. Yeah, you might heard a lot of to-dos today because it's a to-do app. Yeah, I hope you forgive me for that, but it's fun saying to-do a lot, right? So const total to-dos, and we'll just set the to-dos state, which was this, right? This and its length. So the total number of to-dos that we have created. Now copy and paste this a couple times, and then the second one will be called completed to-dos, right? So here we need to do some operation, which is filter. We need to filter from all our to-dos, and for each to-do, right, using callback function, we need to check if to-do.completed is true, right? If to-do.completed is true, will to-dos.filter will return only those and create a new array, and the new array that's created with the completed to-dos will find its length, right, and save it in completed to-dos, right? So this is how we get the completed to-dos. A filter function is nothing but a function that applies a condition to every element in the source array and returns a new array with the passing elements. The passing elements are the elements for which the condition came out to be true, right? So here to do completed will be set to true if it's completed, and so only the completed ones are returned and the length is of that array. So after completed to-dos, we'll define the pending to-dos, right? Can you guess what this will be? So the pending to-dos will simply be total number of to-dos minus the completed ones, okay? So this is our pending to-dos. So these are all the stats that we will display. Now let's create a use effect hook, because what we want is when the app is first loaded, it checks local storage, brings that data and sets to our state and shows it in the UI. Okay, so we'll create a use effect hook like this. Okay, and this is how you import use effect from React. Now, in the dependency array, we want to pass the to-dos state. Okay, whenever it changes, this to-do will run. Right? So what we want is whenever our to-dos array is updated, we want to save it in the local storage. Okay. So on every user edit, our local storage gets updated and is fresh. So like I said, that local storage is a side effect. So we need to handle it with try catch as well. So let's define try catch blocks first. And in the catch, we'll just log error as it is. Okay. Now in the try block, we are going to call local storage dot set item. Right. This is the function you use to set an item in local storage. And we'll pass our first argument as the local storage key under which all our to-dos are stored for our website. And comma, the second argument will be our to-dos. But we need to convert them to a string. Right now they are in a JavaScript array. So we call json.stringify, and inside of this we pass to-dos, right? So first argument is the key, second argument is the value that we want to store, right? So local storage.set item, and that's done. So this is how you make sure that the local storage will always be up to date with our UI, right? With this use effect. After this, we need to write a few functions, that is to add a to-do, set a to-do as completed, edit it, and then delete it. Okay, so let's define quickly some functions. First of all, add to-do. It will take an event, right? Now on event, we'll do prevent default first of all. Right? We don't want the form to submit or anything like that. So event.prevent default. Now if the new to do, will trim it, right? If there are any spaces on left or right hand side of the user entered text, we trim that. If nothing is entered by the user, then we just return. Okay, nothing should happen. Now if that's not the case, we define a to do variable, not dodo to do, right? And each to do will be an object, right? Now this object, each object has an ID, which is nothing but the current date time, like this. And second, the to do text, which is new to do, which is our state variable we define for our to do. After the text, a flag to check if it's completed or not. Initially it's set to false, right? And finally a timestamp when it was created. So created at, right? And this will be new date, right? And we'll convert it to an ISO string like this. So this is our to do item. And now we need to update our state. So we'll call set to dos. We'll get all the previous ones. And in a new array, we'll unpack the previous array. And finally, add the new one like this. Okay. So we have added our new to do. And finally, we need to reset the input box, right? So for that, we'll set our new to do to empty array. So copy this, and we need to change this function to be this, right? So this is all our add to do function. The second function we need to define is the toggle complete function. This will toggle the to do to be completed or not. Okay. So now toggle complete, instead of an event, will take an ID of the to do that the user is trying to mark as completed. And we call the set to dos function. We get the previous to dos, and then we'll map over each one, right? Using the map function. In the map function, we get the to do, each to do one by one. And then for each to do, we need to check if each to do's ID is the same as the current ID that the user is trying to edit, right? So only when this ID is same, we'll update the to-do. So when the ID is same, we create a new object, we unpack the existing to-do as is, right? We set completed to toggle, right? We are going to toggle, so we'll do exclamation mark to do completed, which will be the opposite of true or false, right? After completed, we'll set a date in the updated add key, and we'll create a new date, right? Date function, and again to ISO string, right? So this is how we edit a to do. And if for all the to-dos that don't match the ID, we just pass the to-do as it is, right? So that's our toggle to-do function. Next, let's create the start edit. Okay. Start edit function like this. Start edit receives a to-do as a parameter. Now inside of this, first we set editing text to true, or sorry, not editing text. First we set the editing ID to the current to-do's ID, right? And then we set the edit text to to-do.text. Okay, so this is how you edit a to-do. After you've edited, you need to save the to-do. Okay, so we'll create a function called save edit, right? And inside of save edit, first we'll check if the edit text exists, right? If it's not empty. So if it's empty, then we'll just return. If it's not empty, we update our to-dos array, right? First of all, like you have seen so far the pattern, we get the previous to-dos, right? And then we need to map over the previous to-dos to check whether they match the ID, right? So previous.map, we get each to-do, right? Now again, we check to-do.id equals the editing ID, right? If it's true and if it's false. Now if it's false, we just return the to-do as it is. And if it is true, we create a new object like you have seen so far, set the to-do as it is, and then now we need to update some properties. And the properties is text. We will update it with edit text, and then a new date, right? Dot to ISO string, and that's it. Okay, so this is how we save. And after we have saved, okay, after we have saved, we need to set our set editing ID to null, because the edit is complete. So now we remove the edit ID, right? So this is our save edit function. Two more functions to go, small ones. Next is delete ID, or maybe delete to do. Okay, now this one receives an ID. As the name suggests, this will delete a to do, and we'll update our to do's state. We get the previous one, right? In the callback, we filter, right? Instead of mapping, this time we want only one. So we'll filter to do, and if to do.id not equal to ID, right? So what is we are doing here is we are filtering out all the to-dos that are not the one that is being deleted. So this is how it will get deleted, right? We are just ignoring the deleting to-do, right? So that's how you delete. That's all we need there. And finally, a function to reset local storage. Okay, reset local storage. Right? And again, like I said, local storage is a side effect, so we need to handle it with try catch error and just log the error as it is. Okay, now inside of the try block, we'll call the local storage dot remove item, okay, and pass our key, right? So we are doing, what we are doing is we are emptying all our to-dos from the local storage, okay, when you want to reset the entire thing, right? So that's that function. Now we have completed all our functions and all our state. Now the only thing remaining for us is to populate our UI and call this function so that our to-do app works, okay? So let's start by doing that. Since we have installed Tailwind, we will use it to style this app. Let's define a div with a class name. We'll give it a height that takes the entire screen, right? Then we'll create a gradient background which goes to the bottom right, so to BR, and the color should go from purple 100 to let's say indigo, also 100, right? And then we give it a vertical padding of 8 and horizontal padding of 4, okay, right? Now inside of this div, let's create 2 more divs, okay, 1 and 2. Now inside of this, we'll give it a title called Todo App, right? Save this. Now this h1 will have a class name. Let's say a font size of 3XL, font bold, and text gray 800 color, okay? Save this. So this is how it looks. Now on the parent div, we'll give some class. So let's say flex, justify center, or maybe between, and then item center and a margin bottom, okay? And finally on its parent div, we'll also give a class name. Let's call it max width, that is MD, right? So basically 50% width, a margin of auto, horizontal, right? Background color of white, and then rounded border radius, so rounded XL, some shadow XL or maybe LG, right? And then a padding all around of 6. Let's save this, right? And it looks good, right? So this is some purple color, some gradient going there, and this is our div. Okay. Now after our h1 tag, let's display the to-dos, or maybe if the to-dos exist, a button to reset all the to-dos, okay? So first of all, let's display the reset to-dos button. We'll check if the to-dos dot length is greater than 0, right? Now if it is, in that case, we'll show a button, right? Now on click, this button will call the reset local storage function, right? Let's give it some styles as well. So a font size, let's say text XS, text gray 500 color. On hovering this button, let's change its color to red to indicate that this will delete, right? And we'll give some animation with transition colors, okay? So that's the class name. Let's close the button and we'll call it reset all, okay? Save this. Since we don't have any to do yet, the button is not displayed, okay? It will only be displayed once the to-dos exist, right? So this is our first div. Now let's come out here. Let's create the statistics section to display the stats, okay? So let's create a div. We need to create a lot of divs here. Okay, so we'll do class name. We'll create a grid. We'll create 3 columns. Give gap of 4, a margin bottom of 6, background color of gray 50, and rounded borders with some padding like this, okay? So save this. Now inside of this, let's define another div. this will have just one class name of text center. Okay. Now inside of this text center, we define a div again. Now this div will show our total number of to-dos. Okay. Now for this total number of to-dos, let's define a class name. This will have a font size of 2XL, right? Then a font bold and text purple color of 600. Change this purple to 600, right? So this is our total to-dos. And after this div, we create another div, and this will just say total, right? And give it a class name of text sm, which is small font size, and then a color of text gray 600. Let's save. And this is how it looks. Okay. So right now 0 total to-dos. Okay. Now we need to just copy paste, I guess, the div center. So we come here, we copy this, right? Paste and paste. So after the total one, we'll call the second one completed, and we'll show the completed to-dos. Save this, right? So this is completed to-dos. And after completed to-dos, we show pending, and here pending to-dos. Okay. So we have all our 3 listed, but we need them to be in a row. Okay, so the mistake here is that a typo is here. Okay, let's save this. I typed it out wrong. Okay, so great. Right. So these are all our stats. These will change as we add to-dos. Okay. Now, after we have completed our stats, let's close this. Right. Now we need to create a form to create new to-dos. Right. So we'll define using the form tag. On submit, this will call the add to do function. Okay. Now this form will have a class of flex, gap to, and margin bottom. Right. Inside of this, we'll define just one input. Right. This input will be of type text, and the value of this will be our new to do state. Okay. So this state. Okay. And we need to call set new to do. We are already doing that. Okay, we need to call that on change. Okay. So next, on change event handler, and on this we define a callback which takes an event, right? And we call set new to do, and we set the event.target.value, which is the new to do value. Okay. Now we define a placeholder, which will just be add a new to do and ellipsis. Save this, and then finally a class name to give some styles. So we'll do flex 1, horizontal padding 4, vertical padding 2, rounded borders, some border, right? And border color of, let's say, gray 300. Now when the input box is focused, which means clicked on by the user, we'll show the outline as none, right? And then we'll show a ring of 2 px, and then again on focus, the focus color will be, the ring color will be purple 500, and we'll change the border to be transparent, right? And then we'll add some animation with transition all. Okay, let's save this and close our input tag, and this is how it looks. Now just note what happens when I click on it, right? So on focus there is a purple ring, and it appears with some transition delay fade, right? Okay, so this is our input box. Now we need to create a button to save, right? Even if you hit enter, because the form is on submit, even if you type enter, it will save. Okay, so this button will have a type of submit, and then we give it some styles. Let's say background of purple 500, then text color white, horizontal padding, vertical padding, rounded borders, and when the button is hovered, we'll change the BG color to purple 600. Okay, and on focus we'll change the outline to none. Right, again on focus we'll give it a ring of 2. On focus, a ring color of purple 500, and again on focus we'll do a ring offset of 2, and then transition all. Save this, and let's also give it some flex and items center. Okay, now let's close this. Inside of this button will also show an icon, right? We won't say any text, we won't add any text, we'll just show a plus icon. So we'll do plus, and we'll import the plus icon from lucide-react library. We'll give it a size of 20, and we'll self close this tab. So this is how you import the plus icon from lucide-react. Okay, let's save this, and this is how it looks. Okay, now we can create a to-do, but it won't appear on screen because we are not yet displaying it. Okay, so let's go and display our to-dos. Right. So before displaying our to-dos, we need to display an empty state. When no to-do exists, like now, we need to show something, right? It only looks good. So we'll check if our to-dos dot length equals to 0. Right? When this is true, we show something. We create a div, we give it a class name. Let's say a width of 12, height 12, margin horizontal auto, margin bottom of 2, and some opacity. Let's say 50%. Right? Or not for this. Let's say this div, let's remove these styles. Let's say this div only has text center, a padding vertical of 6, and text color of gray 500. Okay, close the div. Inside this div, now we'll call a list to do component. Okay, not a component but an icon which will again import from the lucide-react. Okay, and list to do, this will have a class name, and these will be these class names. Okay, so width of 12, height of 12, horizontal, margin, bottom, and opacity of 50%. Now self close this icon. This is how you import this icon from lucide-react. Right? After the icon, we add a paragraph that says no to-dos yet, add your first to-do, or maybe task. Okay, let's save this, and here is our empty state. Looks good, right? Yes. So this is our empty state. Now finally let's show our to-dos here. Okay, to-dos list. So first of all, we'll create an unordered list. We'll give it a class name. Let's say space vertical of 3. Right? Inside of this, we'll map over our to-dos array. Right? We'll get each to-do, and in a callback, we return some markup. Okay? So now here, for each to-do, we'll create a list item. Now we need to create a key for each, which will be nothing but to-do.id. Then we'll give some styles. Let's say a group BG gray color 50, rounded borders, padding 4, flex, item center, a gap of 3, some transform. So this transform transition all, okay, and on hover we'll do a negative translate y1, which means on hover just raise it up a bit, okay, make it look like it gets lifted up a bit when you hover it, okay, and then on hover also give it a shadow, let's say MD, and then finally add the animate slide in animation. Okay, so that's for this list item. Now inside of this list item, there's a bunch of things we need to add now. Okay, so first of all, we'll check if our current to do is being edited. Okay, so if editing ID equals to the current to do dot id, right? Now if it's true and if it's false, we'll show different things. Right? Now if it's true, we'll show a div. Let's give it some styles, flex 1, flex, and gap of 2. Okay, now inside of this div we'll create an input tag, right, to edit the to do. This will be again of type text, right, type text, and then value will be edit text, okay, and then on change in the event callback we'll call the set edit text state variable and set it to event.target.value like this. Finally, let's give this input some class name or styles, which is flex 1, horizontal padding 3, vertical padding 1, rounded borders, some border, and the border color of gray 300. When it's focused, we show outline none, and again on focus we show a ring of 2. Copy this, paste again, and the ring color should be purple 500. Okay, so that's our input box. We also call autofocus attribute to this element, because whenever a user clicks edit, the element is auto clicked. Okay, so that's that. And finally we add a button to save our edit. Okay, so when this button is clicked on, we'll call our save edit function. So you remember that we wrote to save the to do. Okay. Now let's give it some styles. This will have text color of green 500. On hover, we'll change the text green to 600, and then some transition colors. Okay, right, and then we close this button. Now this button will also be an icon, and this icon again from the lucide-react will be check icon with a size of 20, and close this, save, right? Yeah, this is because we need to show something else again, but hold on to that now. In addition to the edit button, right, we'll also show something else. Okay, we'll show a new button, and when this button is clicked, we'll do set editing ID to be null. Okay, we'll give it some class name. This button will be to delete, right? So red 500, and this time red 600, and this remains same. Now instead of the check icon, we call the X icon, right, from lucide-react, and save this, right? So this is the button to delete, not edit. Or no, this is not the button to delete, but this is the button to cancel the editing. Okay. When you click on edit, but you want to cancel instead of saving it, you click on this button. Okay. So if you are not editing the to do, now we need to show something else. Okay. We'll create empty tags. We don't want to create a div, right? Inside of this, we'll create an input tag. Now this input will be the checkbox, right? Whether the to-do is completed or not. And this will have a checked value, which will be based on to-do.completed, right? And then when this changes, right, we need to change the toggle complete function that we defined, and we'll pass the current to-do's ID like this. Okay. Now finally give it some styles: width 5, height 5, rounded, border, let's say border gray 300, some text of purple 500, and then the same thing, the on focus we'll give it a ring purple of 500, and then transition all, right? Transition all, self close this. So that's our checkbox. Now we'll create a span tag for our to do text, right? We'll give it a class name of, now we need to set some things programmatically in this class name, right, based on the state of the to do. So we'll create template literals. Now we'll give it flex of 1. Finally, we'll check something, whether the to do is completed or not, right? If the to do is completed, then we'll show it as gray color. Okay, so text gray 400, and we'll show it as checked, right, or deleted, right? So line through, right? If it's not completed, then we just set its color to text gray and 700. So that's that. And finally, transition all for animation. Close the span. Now inside of the span, we'll just display our to do dot text. Finally, yeah. Now after the text, we'll create 2 buttons, right, to edit and to delete. Right? So button, when this button is clicked, we will call the in a callback, we will call the start edit function, and we'll pass the current to do, right? And then let's give it some styles. Text gray 400. When it's hovered, we'll set it to text blue 500. Transition animation for colors, right? And then some opacity. Let's say initially it will be like 0. And then when the entire to do is hovered, only then this will be shown. Okay, only then these action buttons like edit and delete will be shown. So on group hover, we'll do opacity of 100, right? Now inside of this button, we'll show an edit icon. So let's do edit to from lucide-react, size 20, and close this. Now let's copy and paste this button again like this. Okay. Now in this button, instead of calling start edit, we'll call the delete to do function. And instead of passing the entire to do, we'll just pass the to do dot ID. Now for styles, most things will remain the same. On hover, instead of red, instead of blue, we'll do red. Transition colors, opacity 0, and that remains the same. Okay. Now the icon we need to change, instead of edit to, we'll call trash to. Right. Save that. So this is our button, and this should be our entire to do component. So let's check it out in the browser. Right. So this is our to do app. Let's try and creating some to dos. Let's say, and I'll just click this button for the first time. So this is our first to do, and you must have noticed the animation, the slide animation that came in, right? And the edit buttons are only shown when you hover on the group. Okay, so you can hover, you can edit, right? This will call the start edit. So this is the start edit function, and you can edit something, you can save, right? You can edit again, you can cancel the edit with this X, you can delete the to do as well, and everything goes back, right? And these stats change as well, right? So let's create some more. Let's say write blog and post reel, right? Let's say we have done one, so let's check this, right? So total 2, 1 completed, 1 pending. Let's create more. Right, homework is done. Maybe a few more, and you can just hit enter, right? Because the form is on submit. So clicking enter submits the form, right? So our to-do app is working fine. We can just click reset all and everything goes. But I want to show you something, that all of this is being stored in our local host, right? So when you refresh the app, the to-dos don't reset because they are already stored in the localhost, so they are loaded from there. So let's check our localhost. Let's go to the application tab in our DevTools. Now inside of our local storage, we need to find the current website that we are on. So for now, this is the URL. And under this, we need to find the key that we saved our to-dos in, right? So I saved it in to-do app key, right? So when I click on this, these are all the items, right? So it's actually stored as a string, but Google also gives us a parsed view. So this is our JSON, and all our to-dos are stored here. And that's why we can refresh and it is still there, right? So this was our to-do app. Hope you liked this. And if you did, please subscribe to the channel. I will bring more cool projects for you. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.